Thank you. It is exciting to see such a dedicated group of developers. It is even more exciting to see you all here at 9:30 in the morning. I'll play a short video, which is about Windows Phone 7. Jain. I'm a program manager with Microsoft India Development Center. I own delivery of managed runtime for Windows Phone, and most of the managed APIs, they're going to be running on the phone. So every application that's going to be written for Windows Mobile is going to run on the same managed platform. Our past couple of months, I'm sorry, I'm coming in the way. Our past couple of months, you may have seen a lot of buzz around Windows Phone 7, a lot of technical websites, a section of media covered it a lot. In today's session, we are going to cover a few things. What is Windows Mobile 7? What kind of an application platform is available to you as a developer? And what would it take you in terms of tools and the processes to start developing Windows Mobile 7 applications? We have a lot to cover. We'll quickly begin. So this is going to be the agenda for today. We'll briefly talk about what is new about Windows Phone 7. When we say it's a new start from Microsoft, I'll just explain the philosophy behind it as a developer about Windows Phone 7. The runtime that's going to be available on the devices, the cloud services that you would need to integrate to build rich applications, the tools that are available to you, and the portal services that are available to you from Microsoft to make your applications available to developers without worrying about the logistics. Okay, so let's start with this next slide. We just saw a brief video. I'm quite sure you have not seen something like this before. In terms of the UI that you saw, it's very different from what's available in the market. It draws its inspiration from the signage in public places like airports, metros. In fact, internally, we call this UI as Metro. It draws inspiration from the theme that you are in a busy place with a lot of interactions, you are quickly on the go, and you want information that is relevant to you quickly. Humanity has been inventing this art for over hundreds of years to display the information that is relevant to you in a most shortest fashion. The second theme around this new design, what we call is an integrated experience. You see those little blue boxes around it? We call them live tiles. They're live because they just represent the data that is being sent. They fetch data from the background and keep updating it. Just to give you an example, like I'm here today in Bangalore, so my wife went to Delhi this morning, and I told her, to let me know when she lands there. Now, I don't know whether she's going to call me, and I'm going to miss her call when I'm talking to you. She's going to send me an SMS. She could send me a mail, and I don't know from which account, from her office account, from Gmail, from Yahoo, or who knows, she might be putting it on her Facebook. So now when I think about, whether she's reached safe or not, I need to think through these different applications rather than worrying about whether my wife has an update for me. In this model, we create a tile for her, the people who are more relevant to you, the information that is more relevant to you. And phone platform does getting all the data together and make it available to you. Just one touch. We'll see a demo later on. Just one touch. And the updates from her from any place are going to be available to you right here. We call this the hub concept. A hub is the area where all the relevant information from all different sources is going to be available. So people is one hub. That's what our social interaction is going to be available around. The next hub we believe is pictures. Whether it's a picture from your phone you take a camera on, it could be from your Facebook photos, it could be from your Flickr, or any other source. A photo is a photo. So when you go to photos, all your photos should be available right there. There are similarly a hub around Xbox Live gaming, which is like whether you play on an Xbox or you play on a computer using Xbox Live, all your credit points, your avatars, and everything should be available in one single place. We'll see a quick demo of it towards the end of the session. So I'll just go on to the next slide to give you more data on it. Okay, with Windows Phone 7, we believe we are changing our game. There is a new thinking at Microsoft how we look at the phone software. It is quite unlike our previous releases. And the thinking is focused around three main areas. The end user comes first. We genuinely believe the end user experience has to be great. And it has its impacts not just on how a user plays with his phone, how the UI is designed. It has its implication about how the application platform is designed. It would have an impact on you as a developer when you develop your application, that you have to keep it in mind, what does end user great experience means first. It would mean there will be a customized set of controls available to you as developers, which you would just need to drag drop into your application to make your application look like a Windows Phone 7 application. There are going to be some constraints. There are going to be a lot of things built in for you, which you can take advantage of. Any application platform would have applications. In fact, one of the success criteria for an application platform is the richness and the number of applications developed for it. We have a brand new application platform. It's a managed platform. It is available for you to take advantage of a lot of stuff that is already built into it. We'll go further into the session. The last one is we have a new hardware foundation. There's a bare minimum hardware that you can expect on the phone. There are defined specs that every Windows Phone 7 has to carry. We'll go into detail on the hardware foundation onto the next section. Right. Okay, let's go into a little history of this. When you look at Windows Phone, there are a variety of it available in the market. Now, what it means is a fragmentation. As a developer, you need to cater to different screen sizes, different kind of phone. You need to test it on each phone whether your application would work or not. With Windows Phone 7, we have taken a different approach. One approach is we have a single phone model. Every Windows Phone 7 is going to look exactly like that. Well, when we started designing this, we had sort of conflicting priorities. The first angle was end user. End users want consistency, which means when you see Windows Phone 7 in somebody's hand and you go buy yours, it should work and behave exactly the same way that you saw somebody else's. It should not look something else, which means consistency. The second dimension is people want choice. People want a personalized piece of hardware. It could mean a different color, a different size, and even feel of the material, the phone is made up of. Some people want metallic, some people want like a plasticky finish. Whether it should have a keyboard. Like my father would never buy a phone, without a keyboard. And for some of us, it is extra 50 grams on the phone weight. What it means to a developer, can you assume there will be a keyboard on the phone or not? When you develop your application, can you take advantage of that? So what we have gone ahead is defined a few minimum hardware specs, and what we call as Windows Phone 7 specs. The first one is the screen size. Every Windows Phone 7 is going to be available only in two screen sizes, which is 800 by 480 and 480 by 320. The first revision of Windows Phone 7, which is coming out Q4 this year, is going to be available only in 800 by 480. We'll follow up with the second screen resolution later on to address the price-sensitive markets. Now, what does this mean to you as a developer? You look closer, there are two aspect ratios here, 3:5 and 2:3. So as long as your UI caters to these two aspect ratios, you can be guaranteed that your application will run on Windows Phone 7. You don't need to worry about any other variation available. Now, what else worries you as mobile developer? Just a quick raise of hand. How many people here are mobile developers? Microsoft or any other platform? All right, thanks. So one of the concerns for a mobile phone developer is, can I take advantage of a camera on my phone or not? I don't know whether a target device would have a camera. Can I take advantage of GPS to do location-sensitive applications? So what we have done is gone ahead and defined a set of specs which every phone to deserve a tag of Windows Phone 7 needs to address to this. The first one is capacitive touch, and minimum 4 touch points or not. For those of you who are game developers, would understand it better. When you write a game, you can be sure there will be at least 4 touch points on the phone that you can take input from. This is minimum, and this is guaranteed. There are going to be at least those 5 sensors that you see: a GPS, accelerometer, compass, light, and proximity that you can take advantage of. There is going to be a 5-megapixel camera. This is by far one of the best cameras that are going to be available. There is going to be a multimedia spec. There is going to be a hardware acceleration on your codecs. It will also have a bare minimum memory. It will also have GPU. You can take advantage of GPU for smoother animations, your graphic capabilities on the phone. It gives you a lot of horsepower to do rich multimedia applications. Every Windows Phone 7 will have a minimum processor of ARM 7 and above. We call it keep minimum, but if you look at it, they are pretty much, give a run to money for any phone on the market. You look carefully, there are little 3 buttons on the corner. Every Windows Phone 7 is going to have these 3 buttons. And why we have defined it in such a fashion. The rightmost button you see is the search button. So every time a user hits on this button, he's going to get the search capabilities on the phone. There's a home button in the middle. No matter how deep you are into your application navigation, you touch this button, it will bring you back to the home screen. And there's a defined behavior, which application has to adhere to when it goes back to the home screen. The left button that you see is the back button. And there's a reason that we have put a back button on the phone. We all of us are so tuned to this, web browsing thing. We go to a page and we hit back button, we do something, hit back button. This button pretty much behaves the same way. It walks you back onto the application stack. And this is a button which is available to you as a developer to take advantage of. You can program this button in your application to do a back behavior or anything else. An example would be, you show up a form to a user, and you type data, and he hits the back button to go back to home screen or something. You can actually capture that and ask him whether he wants to save the data that he just typed. Or you can use another advantage like dismissing a dialog box or something that pops up. So these are the minimum specs that as a software developer you can take advantage of, and all of them are available to you programmatically. All right, let's take a look at all these 4 together because they essentially are part of what we call as the runtime of the phone and other things. If you look carefully at the screen, there are 2 parts of the screen, what we call as a cloud, the bottom part. This is the software that is going to be running in the cloud, like on a server, which is either owned by you or is owned by somebody else. The above 2 parts here are the ones that are going to be run either on your phone or on your desktop. We're going to be taking a closer look at each one of them and how they relate to you as a developer. You see a lot of terms on this screen. At the bottom, if you notice, we have the 3 platforms that Microsoft supports. Windows Phone 7, Xbox 360, and Windows 7. The desktop Windows 7. It is important to take a minute to understand, why we put these 3. We believe everything that is available here above this stack will eventually be available across the 3 screens. So as a developer, you can define your application strategically to put in your core pieces, which runs across the 3 platforms, and then you can do your optimizations for the target screen that you're going to be building your application for. For example, then an application you build for desktop will not run as is on a phone because of screen size. Similarly, when you develop a game for Xbox 360, which is probably going to be running on a, let's say, at least 36-inch monitor, it's not going to be exactly the same that you're going to be experiencing on your phone. But the core logic behind all of them could still be the same. So on every Windows Phone 7, there are 2 flavors of application that are going to be supported. The first one is Silverlight. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Silverlight here. Well, this is a good number. Okay, that's Microsoft, application framework for developing, event-driven rich client applications. The reason we chose Silverlight is because there's a large pool of developers available out here. So if you know Silverlight, you know 90% of the mobile development. There is very little extra that you need to know, and it is fairly easy to learn that. We have a session following this in the same room, in which we are going to go into the differences and the advanced capabilities that you will need to know to develop mobile-specific applications. So if you're developing an application like a data snacking application, connecting to the web, you're going to be using Silverlight. We have another application model available here, which we call as XNA. This is the game development model available from Microsoft. This is what we use to develop 3D gaming, where the high-performance games are needed. So far, this was available only for Xbox 360 developers. With Windows Mobile 7, we will bring in these 2 very popular platforms to be available to a developer. Now, when you start developing an application and you have a choice, it's like 2 doors in front of you. You're going to sit down. Am I developing a high-performance 3D-enabled game? If the answer is yes, you're going to go down this path. If you are not developing a game, you're developing let's say, casual game or any event-driven application, you're going to stick to the Silverlight. And for the life of your application, you're going to stick to that path. But what you see here is only the UI part of it. All the framework underneath is common across these 2, which means it is the same set of API libraries that are available. Be it isolated storage, the storage on the phone, the network access, sensors that you just saw, you can take advantage of all of them in either of the programming model. Well, I think I talked for about 15-20 minutes. I have a choice. I can do a small code right now to show you how easy it is to build an application, or towards the end. What would you prefer? Do it now? Yeah. All right. Let's do a quick demo here. How easy it is to build a simple application. I'll just come out of it for a minute. I launched this tool, what we call as Microsoft Visual Studio 2010 Express for Windows Phone 7. It takes longer to speak this name than to build an application. I'll give the details about this tool later on. So I think it looks pretty much same as Visual Studio 2010, which was released on 12th this month. Okay, let's click on new project. And what do we build? I think a hello world is pretty lame. Everybody comes here, shows you hello world, and walks away. You go back to your room and you figure out, wow. Let's build a small photo application. We'll bring in a picture and do some graphic animation on top of it. Okay, you see, I talked about either you can choose. I have a pointer here. Let me use that. You can either choose Silverlight or you can choose XNA. That's what we talked about. So the same tool gives you the capability to develop either of the models. So for this demo, let's stick to the Silverlight. And there are 3 types of templates that are available to you here. We'll stick with the simplest one for this, which is a Windows Phone application. And let's call it my first app. Okay, and we hit OK. So give it a second. It's going to load Designer on that surface. Okay, and I'm going to resize it so that it looks good. Okay, so that's a tool. I think most of you have seen it's familiar. The only new part is the designer part. So what we have is the exact same look and feel. That's going to be the Windows mobile phone's look and feel. You can use the toolbox to design your screen. It's going to be exactly the same what you see here. So let me just bring in the toolbox and put in an image here. Okay, let me try to do this. A little bigger image here. All right. I need more space here. Okay. And let me put a slider here. Okay. That's a standard, Silverlight control. But note that all these controls are customized for mobile. The font size, the look and feel, is different. So when we go back to our first principle, end user experience has to be great. And I said this reflects in all of our decision. That's what I meant, So everything that we're going to do is very mobile specific now. And this is the slider one. I am going to change. Well, slider returns you a value from minimum to maximum. The default is 0 to 10. I'm going to make it 360, which is a full circle. And I'm going to create another one. And let me change the orientation of this one. Orientation. I'll make it vertical. And this goes like this. And I drag drop it here. Fairly simple so far. I just added one image control and two sliders to it. Okay, let's put an image here. Go to image, and I call it source. Okay, my project does not have any images, so let's add an image here. Oh, I have some of the icons for the IPL teams, So these are the 4 teams, in semifinals. So let's pick one. Who's going to win the finals? Well, that's what you expect when you're in Bangalore. All right, let's choose RCB. Okay, here you go. I'm sorry, it was skewed because I have a square logo. So let me just make it square. It looks better. And move it to the center. Okay, Silverlight has a property called projection plane. Using projection plane, this is how you put your image, and you can view it in 3 dimensions. By default, an image does not carry a projection plane, so let me just give it a projection plane. This is again, zero code thing. I think I'm done with this. I don't need any other control. I get you more space here. I select my image. So that's a tag. I'm going to be going to the end. This is a XAML, which is a definition language for Silverlight, but it is exactly like XML, except for the new tags. So go here. I add my image tag. I close the tag. So far, there is no magic. And I'm going to be giving a projection plane. It's image dot projection. Close the tag, and give it a plane projection, which is again, standard property, plane projection. And just to make my life easier later, I'm going to give it a name. We call it XName property. I call it IMG plane. And let's close this tag. Wow, this is a well-formed XAML. So far, there is zero code. I added an image, gave it a projection plane that I can manipulate it, and I added 2 sliders, change their values, the maximum value that they return on. Let's double-click on the slider. This does a code behind, adds an event. I think all of us are familiar with this. Double-click, you get an event. Let's go back to the other slider too, and add event for this guy too. Okay, now whenever there is an event on the slider, I'm going to get a callback here. So what I'm going to do is, remember we added this image plane, to manipulate the image. See, I just added there. I've not saved my file and not compiled my file. The IntelliSense has picked it up. So image plane is a plane projection which has certain properties to it. I'm going to be rotating on y-axis here. Where is it? Rotation on y-axis. So basically what I'm doing what I'm doing here is I'm accessing the projection plane and getting the rotation axis for that. And let me just give it a value. What was it called? Slider, I guess. Yeah, it was slider dot value. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. And I hate typing, so I'm going to copy this here and do the bare minimum required. Change the axis to Y now and tie it down to my slider 2. So if you look at it, it's exactly 2 lines of code. Actually 1, I just copied the other one. And my application should be done. I'm going to hit Control F5. Wow. Here is my application. And let's see what we have done with this. There are 2 sliders. And when I move this, you see the image rotating. With exactly 2 lines of code, I could manipulate my image the way I want. How do you like that? I mean, it took me exactly 5 minutes to build an application which is rich and graphic. I mean, all the capabilities, to the back side of it, the flip side of it, is all available to you as a developer. Just added a projection plane and moved it around. Now, what you see here on the right side is what we call as emulator. This is an x86-based emulator. Of course, it's not a device. Otherwise, we'll be shipping our Windows Phone on computers. It is a high-fidelity emulator. When it's a high fidelity, it means, it takes advantage of GPU. If your desktop or workstation you work on has GPU, it ties into it and takes advantage of it for the animation. It even supports touch that we talked about for the device. So if your monitor is touch-enabled, you can actually manipulate it by touching your monitor, and this guy gets the input. So almost like 90% of your testing you can do with the emulator without even having a Windows mobile device. The only areas where you would ever imagine, using a Windows mobile device was like performance, and last-minute touch, before you give your application out, you want to run it on a phone once to get a good feel. Other than that, you can do pretty much everything that you need on the same emulator. But this is emulator, this is not device. I know somebody feels like, it will not work on device. So let's, run the same application on device and say how long it takes for you to package your application, do the jing-bang stuff on it, copy it on a device, and work on it. Okay, so I have a Windows Phone 7 device attached here. I'm going to turn it on. Let's go back and change it to device. And I'm going to hit Control F5 again. It's going to do something in the background. I'll just show you here. It is hard to project the device, so I'm going to use the camera here. Can you see the device now? No. Oh. I didn't do anything. I just changed the combo box, which is my deployment target. If I have a device, I'm going to target it to my device, and once same Control F5 takes it to the device. And let's look at the functionality. Fingers are a little bit sticky here. Oh my God. Yeah, it's a little sticky fingers here. So that's what we talked about. So this is the application we just saw. Now, how difficult it is to, just one second, how difficult it is going to be to debug this. Because of course, all of us are great developers, and we are here at a great Indian developer conference, but we know there are bugs in the code. So let's put a breakpoint at some place and see how the application reacts to it. Okay, I did F9, and this time I'm going to do F5, which is a standard, Visual Studio 10 thing. Just give me a second. So that's the same app that we just saw, now in a debug mode. And I had a breakpoint at my X slider. So I'm going to touch this X slider here, and it didn't do anything. Let me switch back at the breakpoint here. You can do live debugging with your device without going through the hoops of it. I'm going to remove this breakpoint now, say F9, and hit my F5 again. I'm going to go back to the device. And again, my finger needs to be spread. Come on. Yeah, just a sweat on it. So actually, we see the application working now. That's it. I think that's pretty much it on this. So it took us the entire experience in less than 5 minutes. You could see how intuitive the tool is. A lot of thought gone behind it, to making your life easier, and to make sure you spend time on where you should be spending time. All right, let's go back to the presentation. We'll have some more demos towards the end to show you the power for this device. Okay. That's where we were. Okay, we have gone through this. We talked about the 2 flavors of applications. I've done that part. Okay, we saw this, we built this app, and we put it on the phone. Now, what is the life cycle of the app once it is on the phone? Can you build any app and put it on the phone? There are restrictions around it. How do you get that? So let's take 2 minutes to go deeper into that. The marketplace is a service which is actually the 4 boxes I show, the bottommost boxes. I'll go details about it. So when you build an app, you actually submit to the marketplace. Microsoft verifies it, signs it, makes it available. So an end user can only get applications from the marketplace. You will not be able to sideload applications, which means you can't build an application and distribute around. And we do that for a very specific reason. Our first principle, end user experience has to be great. We don't want somebody to buy an application only to figure out his data is stolen. The application used his entire network bandwidth. It corrupted other applications on the phone. So there are constraints that we put on to make sure the end user experience is protected. So we go to the next bullet on this. Your job as a developer is just to build an application. And the way we just deployed it on the device, once you're satisfied, you're going to submit it to the marketplace. Beyond that, every aspect of installation, how the application comes down from the marketplace to the phone, what happens once it comes down to the phone, how it installs, installation directories, configuration files, app icons, everything is controlled by the phone. As a developer, you don't really need to worry about anything. You just build an app, F5, couple of debugging sessions, you're satisfied with the app, submit it. Wait for somebody to buy it, and wait for your checks to start flowing into you. We'll go into detail how the money comes in. After all, we're all here for money, except the fame part. Okay, the last and the most important point here is the user controls the installation. It's a very significant part, which means an application will not ever control its lifetime on the phone. A user decides which applications to install, always, which one to uninstall, to accept an update for which app. For example, you may come with V2 of your application. You may push an update. But the choice to update or not lies with the user. He controls the instantiation of the app he wants to invoke an app. An app in itself cannot instantiate another app. An app cannot instantiate itself as a part of the deployment process. Like, I deployed myself, I run myself, and do some configuration. No. It is the end user who is in the driver's seat. So the key takeaway from the slide is an app does not control its life cycle. It is the end user who controls the life cycle of an app. All right, let's go back to the next one, which is cloud. I think most of us know what if you look at the slide, there's a little box here. I'm going to go to this, and I'll cover cloud, go back, and come here. So I'll spend enough time on the marketplace. Okay, we all know about the cloud. This is the code which runs somewhere, on some server. And there are a bunch of things here. How we see, there are different types of cloud services. The first type of cloud service is what we call yours, which means as a developer, you build a server code, You decide to run it somewhere in the cloud, whether it is your server or you take advantage of Microsoft Azure or services available like that. You may decide to build a server to give a feed of IP scores from the server, and you build a client app, consume that, and give a rich, engaging experience to the user. So you control both aspects. Microsoft provides tools to make your life easier. The standard you choose, the tools you choose, the server you choose is all controlled by yours. The next set is what we call as theirs. These are the standard web services available. I see some big examples there: Facebook, Twitter, Flickr. There are a bunch of others like that. They're available to you either free or on subscription basis. And basically, you do not do anything about the web service. You just consume the web service to build a rich, engaging client. And there are some standards available. You can use WCF, SOAP, REST, or whatever you want to use. We provide you again the tools and the libraries in the application platform on Windows Phone 7 to consume those services. There's a third set of services which we call as ours. These are the services which are available to you from Microsoft. These are the services which are embedded into your Windows Phone 7 runtime. And why it is important is for these services, you don't even realize they're running on the cloud. You have a local API available to you. We just call this API, and you get the data. I'll just take an example of, let's say, the location service. The location service is available from Microsoft even for desktop, but there is a special service for mobile, because mobile device is truly mobile. You could be in different places at different times. Now, it takes advantage of, GPS, cell tower triangulations, reverse IP lookups to figure out and give you the best possible accuracy on your location. And you don't need to worry about all this. You simply call the location API and call the right function where I am right now, and you're going to get the coordinates. This is all embedded into the platform. Similarly, there's a push notification. On a phone, you don't really want to poll your server again and again. You want to run out of the battery very fast. Is there a mail available for me? If I start checking every minute, I think my phone won't even last an hour. So as a developer, you can take advantage of push services, which means your cloud server can actually tell whether there is a notification to be sent to the phone, and your phone subscribes to it. And the service accumulates all this notification and send it once. Whether your application is running or it is not running, you still get the data on your phone. And then once, as a user, the end user again, he sees this notification, he can decide to click on it and launch your app to get more details. As a developer, again, you don't need to do anything about it. Other services which are available are Xbox Live, we already talked about it, Microsoft Bing, and Windows Live. So these are the 5 services which are built into Windows Phone 7. And all of them are available to take advantage of in a Windows Phone 7 using the right set of APIs, whether it is embedded or the standard-based. All right, we talked about the theory part again. This is the tool that we talked earlier. What tools are available to you to design this? What do you need to do? Well, if you have Visual Studio 2010, there's a simple mobile add-on available to you. You still use the same tool. You still use the same debugger. Can somebody close the door, please? You still use the same debugger and the same experience that you're familiar with. And you get the experience that you saw above. Let's go to the next one here. Okay. As a part of the release that we did last month during Mix at Las Vegas, we announced a package of tools. In the previous versions of Windows Phone 7, you're required to do about 6 downloads in a very specific order, and chances are something will goof up. This time onwards, you have a single download. You just click once, and you get a package installed on your machine. It takes anywhere about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on the connection speed, and you get every possible tool that you need to start building Windows Phone 7 applications. You have Visual Studio 10 add-on, and if you do not have the full Visual Studio 10, there's an Express edition that we just saw, which is available to you. So you don't need to have Visual Studio 10 to start building Windows Phone 7 application. You can take advantage of the Express edition. There's a special edition of Expression Blend. I think you know Expression Blend. This is Microsoft tool to do good, rich media applications. There's a special edition available for phone applications. The emulator you saw, all the required APIs and SDKs available to you are in one single download. And since we didn't cause any applause here, all these tools are available to you for free. There is absolutely no charge. You click on it, you install it, and they are with you for life. And what do you do? Okay, you got the tool. What do you do next, with the tool? You're going to build an app and package it. That's in package what we call a zap. This is, again, people who are familiar with Silverlight know what zap is. It is a zip format which includes everything your application needs to run, your assemblies, your media files, your data, whatever you need. You package it as a zap, and again, the tool does it for you. Then you deploy it either on the emulator or the device to test it out. Once you are satisfied, you're going to verify it, package it. Now your app is available. From your side, you are done. Now what do you do next to answer the gentleman's question, to make sure it is available to the end user? That brings us to the last block here, what we call as the portal services. This is the services available from Microsoft to the end developers. You take advantage of these services to make sure the application that you're building is available to the end user without going through the logistics of it. Logistics are like, where do you host it? How do you make sure everybody's install experience is good? If it's a paid app, how do you get your money back? Even if it's a free, you do it for the fame, how do you know how many downloads were done? At least you can claim that on your page, my application was downloaded like 100,000 times. All right, so this is how the process looks like. You're going to develop and debug your app that we saw on the last slide. You're going to submit this app. There's a little arrow there which is not visible. You're going to submit your app, and the app is submitted as a zap file, as a single file, which automatically gets transferred. So as a developer, before you submit, you're going to register as a Windows Phone developer. Once you register, you'll be given an ID. You use that ID to submit your app onto the marketplace. Once your app goes to the marketplace, Microsoft will certify it. And it goes back to the reason why we certify it, because we want to make sure this is an app which will not mess up the end user experience. It will not drain his battery. It is not a malicious app. It is not a virus. You're going to certify that. And then we're going to sign it. When I say sign it is the license that we attach along with it. And once the deployment service part is over, we're going to put it on Marketplace. Marketplace is a portal where all the Microsoft certified phone applications will be available for end users to buy. Okay, let's go to the last one, the Marketplace. Okay, there is a lot of emphasis on Marketplace because the end result of this whole thing that you as a developer make money. You make money when people buy applications. And people buy applications when they know which applications are there to buy, and it is fun, and it is easy to buy. On a small screen, you will not be able to browse hundreds and thousands of applications. So there is a built-in experience on the phone, what we call as Marketplace Hub, using which we believe it is very fun, and it is very easy to look for applications. It will provide all the standard things of end user comments, ratings, and all those things in an app. And the belief again it is, the fun and easy it is to buy, the more they will buy. There are a few additional things which are available to you as a developer. There is an API for try before you buy. Nobody wants to buy an application on a phone unless they believe in it. There's this one single API called isTrial. In an application, you call isTrial, it returns you true or false, and you can decide how your application should behave, whether it should let you play till level 3, let you play till 10 times or for 1 month, or whichever way you want. And once the user acquires the full license, the same API will start returning false, which is not in trial, and the same application works for. So you can take advantage of it to make sure more and more people take a look at your application, are impressed by it, and buy it. There's a payment flexibility. The platform overall will support payment either through credit cards, which means end user are going to submit the credit card. And this is all managed by Microsoft. You don't need to worry about it. They're going to open an account on a marketplace, put the credit card, it will be safe. And every time they buy an app, the credit card would be charged. And you as a developer, whatever percentage comes out as a part of the developer model, will be mailed back to you at the right frequencies. There is also a model for a mobile operator-based billing. And the data says that once the charges show up on your monthly phone bill, not as a credit card, the commerce go up by 4 to 5 times, which means there is no credit card to put. As a user, you go there, you see an application, click on it, buy it, and the charges for the application come in your monthly bill. It's just the human psychology works that way. So the platform will support both the models. Now, which model gets rolled out into which country and how, it's more of a regulatory issue. But the platform will not be limiting. And the process that we described to submit an app is going to be same for an update for your V2 and V3s and V4s of your application. So this is how the marketplace experience is going to be to buy an app. All right, I think we have about 20 more minutes. So I'll use the next 10 minutes to show you some demos. These are the applications that were built by Microsoft using some ISVs. They show you the power of the platform. And just to tell you, it runs on the very same runtime that we just saw, on the very same phone. They were built using the very same tool that we just saw. There is no smoke in the mirror here. Yes, they took a little more than 5 minutes that we saw. This application took like about 2 weeks to develop by professional people. But they give you a good feel of what is possible as a platform to show on the Microsoft platform. So I'll switch to this one. Okay. So what you see, the dot here, that's my finger. So restall is like exactly same as what you see here is being projected here. Okay, the first demo that I'm going to show you was developed with Associated Press. You see the little icon there. This shows you, how engaging a simple experience like news reading can be. We all read web news, But on a mobile, using the power of this platform, how engaging the simple experience can be. Let's talk about it. Okay, that's a splash screen that comes up while your application gets ready in the background. And just to show that, there is some network problem here. So the data that you see here is cached on the device. It's just like simple HTML files which are cached here. Okay, so that brings us to the first page. This is the top news. It looks like, any other app. The monetization for the newspapers depend largely on the advertisement. That's how, the newspaper companies run. See, there's a car there. Goes back. There's an advertisement that you see. So the platform provides you rich APIs to do engaging and interactive advertising solutions. So when you build an app, you can actually rely on this route also to make more money. Let's go there again. All right. News reading can be a social experience. There are sites like dig.com and all that which show us. You want to read the news which other people are reading. And the same application shows, how you can turn this into a social experience. How many people like the news? And are there any comments available for the news? And news is nothing without media. Be it standard photos, your videos, everything that you want to go about the news is going to be available here on one page. And then there are the final sections. When I get my newspaper, the first section I go to is sports. I don't really want to go through the 10 pages, I know it is the 14th page in my paper. I go there straight. So let's do that. All right, so that's the sport news. And one important thing for a sports fan is, to get the breaking news. Wow, somebody just got out. It gives you an option to bring in the breaking news. As an app developer, you can take advantage of these APIs. And the view that you're seeing it sliding through, we call it panoramic view. Because the screen is so small, there's a concept, you can imagine there's a screen which is bigger than this, and your phone is sliding through that. You must have got a feel of, how the pages slide by. We call it panoramic view. It gives an experience like you're reading a magazine. Here is a full page of advertisements, from the magazine. This is again a monetization that you can use in your applications. All right, let's go back. I want to read this top news again. All right, the first news is Obama about this health plan. It's a little week to week old news. Let's take a look at that. Here is the full news. It is very engaging. You can slide through it, up, down. You can read through it. You see a picture. Sometimes the news, carries more than one pictures. So why switch a view, go to pictures, and take a look at that? You touch it, and you can see inline pictures there. I'm not going to go into details of this. You can just browse through the pictures that you want to see. Now, what a website for others to read. So that was one experience, how engaging a simple news reading experience can be using Windows Phone 7. All right. You guys were impressed or not with this? These are all real applications. These are not demos. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. All right, let's take a look at this application called Colorizer. It requires a lot of fingers, so let me try that. Okay, so this is a picture you can color with your finger. This is actually a colored picture. It is transformed to black and white using the APIs, and you can color it. Let me choose a better picture. I don't really like this one. Okay, sorry. I touched wrong. Sorry. Let me go back. Forget it. Let's go with this picture, You see how the little plant's there in a corner? I'm going to touch it around, and I'm going to add color to this. This is all happening, and look at the performance of the application. There is no stutter, no nothing. You can actually color. It is hard for me to color, so let me lock the color part, do pan and zoom. You see the two touch points now? I'm going to make the application bigger. I can make it smaller, pinch and zoom. So let me get back to my plant. All right. I go back, I lock this picture up again, and I colored some extra part. Oops, shit, I'm so sorry. I touch it wrong again. I go back. Okay, I'll quickly do that. Yeah, the application is back here. And I can put the black part back. I didn't want to really color all this thing. And I go back and make my picture look smaller. That's what the original picture was all about. So you can do really rich multimedia experience using the same set of APIs. And if you remember, we talked about two programming models, Silverlight and XNA. The two apps that you saw were actually Silverlight apps. So let's take a quick look at what XNA capabilities are on this platform. So this is a huge app. It takes a little while to run. That's a game, and an object in a game which is available. It requires phenomenal amount of computation power to render this so smoothly. It is taking full advantage of the GPU that is running underneath. And you can actually take a closer look. Look at the skin rendering of it. You can put the texture off. This is how it is without the texture, the original frame model. At one touch, I can put the texture back on. And if you think, the device is not capable, how about 20 of those? I'm really stressing the device now. I can turn them around. I can look at them the way any way I want. And the performance comes out pretty smooth. Let's take a look at something else, which we call as skin effect. Now, sorry, let me go here. Skin effect. Here is my superhero for my game. Okay, look at the rendering on top of it. I can make it go either way I want. Look at the tattoo on his left hand, The detail is available to you on such a small device. I can make it go back. It's a fully functional demo. I can take a look at the top, not very interesting. I'm going to go back, make him walk on a glass surface. You can even look at the soul of a shoe. So that's the kind of performance, the sort of small device can deliver. And it takes a lot from the application platform running on it to deliver such a smooth performance. Okay, I think I'm done with this. All right, I'll switch back. So this was just to give you a feel for the platform that is available.
The Sandbox, is there a possibility that you can't download any managed code onto the device from the net or something like that?
There is a managed sandbox on the device. Okay. And you can take advantage of the managed sandbox, but you will not be able to download a managed code. There is no option for you to browse and download on the phone. And the reason for that is we don't want unconfirmed, unsigned code running on a device, which can actually spoil an end-user experience.
So how do you introduce that? So if at all you want to truly offer, think of it like a browser where you can download some JavaScript code. So similarly, is there any way that you can work outside of the managed code but still work on scripts, which can be...
There is a browser which is available on it, on the phone, which is an IE8 browser. Beyond that, we believe there's enough ecosystem that we can create to extend our application platform by the user-developed applications. There is enough proof available in the market to say that's a platform which can flourish and sustain itself. If you're hinting about developing some native applications, outside the managed box, that option is not going to be available on this platform. So every code that you're going to write will be a managed code. And why we do that is we believe, there's a large pool of developers who are already familiar with it. It's fairly faster and easy. You saw how 2 lines of code, gave me that, image rotation API. Try doing that in native. You'll be pulling your hair out, for at least a week to get one image rotated the way we rotated that. Can you?
In the enterprise.
Yeah. Can
Currently,
somebody help with the mic?
what is it? What is the roadmap for migration of the existing applications? I mean, it's a jungle. There are a lot of applications, and anyone can develop any application. A lot of say ISVs and all have developed various applications.
Yes.
To SAP or Oracle or whatever. So, what about all those enterprise consumers?
Okay, the question is, what's the roadmap for enterprise users, because there are a large variety of applications that are already available. So Windows 6.5, the version before this, will continue. And that's the platform that we recommend for enterprise. Windows Phone 7 is an end-user device. It's a consumer device. In future, will the two merge? That's a question, we have not yet answered. So for enterprise, if you have your own applications, want to deploy to your sales force of, let's say, 1,000 people, you stick with 6.5. Or you make your application available to a marketplace. Any other question from anyone? Okay, there is a multitasking which is there in the background, but as a user, it is not going to be available to you. When you saw the back button, there's a simple paradigm what we call as back stack. So when you switch applications, your application will go background. It will not be programmed by user. It will not be programmed by user. All you need to take care is you're going to get an event. Your application has left the main screen. You'll be given an option to save your state. But there's no guarantee your application is going to come back in the same state.
So for example, it's, what you see here is similar to iPhone with push notification.
The push notification part?
No, all the part. Like for example, you have a chat application here.
I think I talk a little bit more than iPhone thing. There's a managed sandbox on this device. We use languages like C# to develop applications.
No, I'm talking about there is a sample application like chat application. Now you are getting a notification from other people like chat. Now you will issue notification to you if you are switching off the chat.
Yes, that's the model that's going to be in this rev. There are no open sockets available, but there's a proposal to add open sockets as we move forward.
How do you manage many devices? There are so many devices that come out, in this device.
Yes.
some form of testability built into it, into the application so that it will reduce your result in terms of doing testing?
Absolutely. So the question is, how as a developer you optimize your effort into testing for the variations that are available in the market. Is that right? Okay. We talked about the hardware foundation part earlier. So every Windows Phone 7 needs to cater to these minimum specs. So OEM vendors who manufacture the device have to adhere to these specifications, minimum. They can add more. With a 5 megapixel camera, sure, somebody can add 8 megapixel. So as an application developer, you are safe if you stay in those bounds. They're pretty upscale specifications. I'll just go back to the slide, to give you an idea, again, what they were. Let me just give a second. We'll go back. Sure. Okay, that's a slide we talked about. So this is the minimum configuration which every OEM vendor has to adhere to. No, so as a developer, you're going to stick to this. We believe it is going to satisfy all of your needs. As long as you take care of this, you are safe. You don't need to test on every variation. The resolution is also prescriptive. If you notice that, we are guaranteeing a vendor cannot have a third variation than this. If it has, it will not be called a Windows Phone 7 device.
The thing would be about automated testing capability.
Yeah.
Because there are Visual Studio. For this particular platform, is there automated testing capability? At least for seeing where you can.
We're talking about an automated test framework available. You can use the power of Visual Studio 10, 2010, to use automated testing. But the Express edition that you just saw, the free edition that we call it, will not have an automated testing. So if you're an enterprise developer, you or your company has paid for full Visual Studio 10, you can take power of that automated testing.
Is that for mobile platform?
No, not yet.
Now, into the platform, no, not yet. No, we don't recommend that you port it. If you look at this, yes, you can use the logic. That's in the background. But the UI, if you look at, 6.5 use WinForms. I mean, if you look at that UI, that is nowhere compared to the UI that you just saw. The focus on this phone, as we call it, is a new beginning. We call it an entirely new platform. And the kind of engaging experience that we hope this thing will enable would not be possible with Windows 6.5 platform. All right, thanks a lot. Thank you for sticking by.